Alright guys, we have made it to the end of 2024. We are here to preview all the championship matches coming up on New Year's Day. Once again, apologies if my voice does sound a little bit dodgy for today's video. Still suffering from this Christmas flu a little bit, but the show must go on with the championship predictions. As always, make sure to get yours in the comments down below. Without any further ado though, let's jump in. Starting out at Home Park, and it's a big game for Plymouth as they take on Bristol City. Plymouth on the longest winless run in the championship. Really felt like that one on Sunday against Oxford was a particularly damning result in their season. It leaves them 4 points adrift at the bottom of the championship, and like I say, without a win now in any of their last 9 matches. You still feel as if they can be competitive enough to nab a result at Home Park, but even their home form has somewhat deserted them of late. You know, they've only taken 2 points from the last 9 available at home, and while Bristol City can be a little bit dodgy on the road themselves, you know, they're winless in their last 4 away matches, it feels like they've got a decent amount of momentum behind them right now. They've picked up back-to-back home wins over this festive period, convincing one on Sunday against Plymouth. They've kept back-to-back clean sheets in that time as well. Listen, Bristol City are always the type of side that tend to slip up in these sorts of games every now and again, but with everything going against Plymouth right now, score prediction for me, I'm going to go 2-1 Bristol City in that game. Next up we go to QPR up against Watford, and I think most people will probably be edging towards QPR in this fixture. They're definitely the side with the momentum right now. They've only lost 1 of their last 9 league matches, and the impressive thing about QPR lately is how they've been able to turn around their home form. You know, it took a couple of months to get that first home win of the season, but since that point they've been pretty good at Loftus Road. They've won their last 3 games on home soil, and going up against a Watford side who haven't quite been firing on all cylinders recently, especially in a lot of their away matches. Now on Sunday, QPR obviously picked up a point away at Norwich. Don't think that's a bad result, even though QPR did obviously concede late on into that game, and Watford, pretty disappointing as they fell to a 2-1 defeat at home against Cardiff. Does feel like more of Watford's issues this season though have come on the road compared to at Vicarage Road. They've actually only won 1 of their last 10 away matches, and with how QPR have turned around their home form recently, score prediction for that one, I'm going to go 1-0 QPR. After that we go to the Den for Millwall up against Oxford. This is a really intriguing clash. The fact that it's Gary Rowett now as Oxford boss returning to the Den. Finally, after weeks of speculation, Alex Neil has been confirmed as the new Millwall head coach, and this is an interesting battle to first walk into. Now, I've been quite vocal about Alex Neil over the past few weeks. I actually think that it could turn out to be really quite a solid appointment for Millwall. I don't think you can read all too much into Neil's stint with Stoke City. I think most good managers who go in at Stoke have obviously found it really tough in recent times. But this is the sort of matchup that does feel fairly low scoring. Gary Rowett, thinking about how he used to set up his Millwall teams away from home, I've got a similar feeling that he'll probably set up Oxford in that sort of fashion going to the Den in this one, which makes me think it will be quite a tight and cagey affair. Now, the real challenge for Rowett will be turning around Oxford's away form. Obviously, brilliant impact in the 2 home games he's managed so far, 6 points from those last 2 home games. But away from home, they're one of 2 championship clubs who are yet to win this season. So that'll be the real test for Rowett. A draw here wouldn't surprise me. I'm just going to give it to Alex Neil with home advantage, maybe with a bit of a new manager bounce. 1-0 Millwall, I'm saying, for that game, but wouldn't be surprised if that ends level. Next up we go to Turf Moor for Burnley up against Stoke. Burnley could certainly do with getting back to winning ways in this one after coming off the back of a draw with Middlesbrough on Sunday. That was their 5th goalless draw of the season for Burnley. I'm sure Stoke would take a goalless draw in this one. Now, in fairness to Stoke, absolutely cracking result over the weekend against Sunderland, obviously making the decision to part company with Narcis Pelac and instantly getting a bit of vindication for that in beating Sunderland. Now, don't get me wrong, Stoke definitely had to maybe ride their luck at points of that game. Obviously, Victor Johansson had to be on top form, and it was by no means a flawless performance, but a bit more fight about Stoke in that game. And when you've got someone on the front end of the pitch like Tom Cannon who has that quality to show up in clutch moments, then you always leave yourself with a chance of getting something. So it does feel like there has been a bit of a mentality shift there at Stoke, but going away to Burnley isn't going to be easy. I think the game plan for Stoke here will will be to make it as tight and frustrating for Burnley as possible. We have seen in a few instances for Burnley at Turf Moor as well that they can struggle to break down the opposition when they come with a solid game plan. But score prediction here, I see Burnley just sneaking it. 1-0 Burnley I'm saying for that game, but I think that could be another tight one. Next up we go to Cardiff up against Coventry. It was a massive result for Cardiff over the weekend, beating Watford away from home 2-1 thanks to a Callum Robinson brace. Obviously not many sides have gone to Vicarage Road this season and left with anything, so the fact they got all 3 points in that game, yeah, it was a huge booster to their survival hopes. I still think there was a bit of pressure there around Omar Ritza though, regardless of that result. Obviously it was Cardiff's first win in their last 10 championship matches, so to build on that result is absolutely crucial now going into what looks like another fairly tough game against Coventry. Still feels like Cov are finding their feet a little bit under Frank Lampard. It was a fairly frustrating result for them over the weekend as they were held to a goalless draw against Millwall. Coventry had the majority of possession in that game but couldn't really craft out that many clear-cut chances. You'd fancy them to get into a few more goal-scoring areas in this game, but Cardiff could look to play on that confidence that they picked up over the weekend. Score prediction for this one, I'm going to go level. 1-1 draw I'm saying between these two. Next up we go to Ellen Road for Leeds United up against Blackburn Rovers, and yeah, it's been a great festive period for Leeds, hasn't it, with both Burnley and Sheffield United dropping points of late. The fact that Leeds have had back-to-back away matches, they've gone into 2 fairly tricky games which were definitely potential banana skins against Stoke and Derby. They've walked away with all 6 points from both those games combined, back-to-back clean sheets in that time as well, and now returning to Ellen Road where, I mean, you'd have Leeds as the favourites for most fixtures, wouldn't you? Yeah, things are looking fairly good for Leeds heading into 2025. It does have to be pointed out that Blackburn have tended to be a bit of a bogey opponent for Leeds in recent meetings. Obviously, Blackburn did win the reverse fixture at Ewood Park, and thinking back to the end of last season where John Eustace pulled off a bit of a masterclass to beat Daniel Farke's side as well. With that being said, Blackburn obviously coming off the back of quite a disappointing one against Hull City. It now means they're without a win in their last 3 matches, and going into 2025 it's not an easy start for Blackburn. They've got an away game against Leeds and then they're straight into that massive crunch match against Burnley. Blackburn always capable of pulling off something against a big side, but score prediction here, I think it's tough to look past Leeds right now. I'm going to go 2-0 Leeds in that game. After that we go to a big game at Kenilworth Road for Luton up against Norwich. Doesn't feel like either side is particularly playing at 100% right now, and 3 points for either of them certainly can't be taken for granted. For Luton, it seems to be the same story week in, week out. Win their home matches and lose their away matches. They're unbeaten in their last 6 games at Kenilworth Road, but have now lost their last 9 on the bounce away from home, obviously, over the weekend, suffering that defeat away at Swansea. For Norwich, it still feels like they aren't quite clicking into gear. They managed to salvage a point in the end late on in that home game against QPR. Does mean they've taken 4 points from their last 2 matches, but away form's been a bit of an issue for Norwich recently as well. They're without a win in their last 8 away games now. Listen, this one feels quite unpredictable because, like I say, I don't think either side's at their best right now. Just with Luton's record at home, though, I'm going to back them for a 2-1 victory over Norwich there, but tough game to call, really. Next up, we go to Portsmouth up against Swansea. I think Portsmouth will be quite glad to be returning to Fratton Park after some tough outings on the road recently. They were obviously well beaten over the weekend against Bristol City. The bulk of their points recently have come in their home matches, but the overall picture for John Mousinho's side is it's now just 1 win in their last 5 league matches, and they now find themselves 23rd in the Championship. Obviously, a lot of teams near the bottom picked up wins over the weekend, so wasn't the best of weekends for Portsmouth. This one won't be easy either against a Swansea side who have been on a bit of a roll recently. They left things late to pick up all 3 points against Luton, but a richly deserved 3 points in the end. Swansea were very much the team in the ascendancy of that fixture. They crafted out the better chances, had the majority of the ball, and ended up winning it. It now means they've only lost 2 of their last 8 matches, and Swansea, generally speaking, have been really good this season against the sides at the bottom of the Championship. In fact, they've only lost once against any team that's currently in the bottom 11, and that was against Hull City. Other than that, Swansea have been pretty flawless when playing the sides at the bottom of the Championship. They tend to be quite good at controlling those sorts of games, don't they? So while Portsmouth have been pretty good at picking up points at home recently, score prediction for this one, I'm going to go 2-1 Swansea. Fancy a result on the road there. After that, we go to Hillsborough for Sheffield Wednesday up against Derby. Obviously, I got to see Sheffield Wednesday up close and personal over the weekend as they took on my side, Preston North End. Didn't think they were at their best, to be honest with you. Obviously, threatened to get back into that game with that cracking Josh Windass strike in the second half. But after North End were awarded that penalty, the game just sort of got away from Sheffield Wednesday, and from that point onwards, couldn't really manage to get back into it. Now, to be fair to Sheffield Wednesday, one thing I would give them a lot of credit for this season is they tended to have really good bounce-back ability. It's worth noting they've not lost back-to-back games in the league since August, which is a really good trait to have when they do put in a bit of an under-par performance, which I think most people would agree they probably did at Deepdale. The next game, Danny Rose seems to get them fired up and ready for a reaction. This one will be fairly tight, I think, against the Derby side, who are obviously coming off the back of a loss themselves over the weekend. 1-0 against Leeds. Did well to keep that game level for so long, but it was a quality goal that Leeds scored in the end, which managed to open Derby up, and they ended up losing that one 1-0. In the reverse fixture, Sheffield Wednesday just nicked it in the last minute, didn't they? They beat Derby 2-1. I've got a gut feeling this game could go in a similar direction. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 Sheffield Wednesday. Next up, we go to the Hawthorns for West Brom up against Preston. A result not to be sniffed at for West Brom over the weekend, playing at a 1-1 draw with Sheffield United. We sort of mentioned in the preview to that game that there probably will be a bit of inconsistency about West Brom over these next few days and weeks while they do search for that Corbron replacement, and we're in this sort of interim period. But yeah, like I say, a result not to be sniffed at, drawing away at Sheffield United. From a Preston perspective, it's been a really good festive period. Back-to-back wins for Paul Heckingbottom's side at Deepdale. The question now is whether we can properly crack this away form, which has been a bit of an issue for us all season. Still just one win on the road for Paul Heckingbottom's men up until this point. It does have to be said that these are the two sides who have drawn more matches than any other teams in the Championship so far this season. The reverse fixture at Deepdale finished 1-1. I wouldn't be totally surprised if this game heads in a similar direction. Now, Preston do have the tendency to drop the odd clanger on the road. We saw that away at QPR recently, and West Brom could definitely look to take advantage of that. But score prediction here, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Think that it'll be a fairly tight one. After that, we go to Hull up against Middlesbrough. There's definitely a feeling that Hull are improving. They've now won 2 of their last 3 matches. Ruben Sellers really starting to lay the foundations for what Hull fans will be hoping for is a solid second half of the season. Cracking result for them over the weekend, going away to Blackburn, walking away with not just a clean sheet but all 3 points as well. And is this a decent time to be playing Middlesbrough, who have now only won 1 of their last 6 matches? I don't know. Obviously over the weekend they played out a goalless draw with Burnley. Obviously Burnley always a very difficult side to play against, and to be honest that game could have gone either way. Borough had to settle for a point in the end, and that has become a bit of a trend with Michael Carrick's side recently. It's now 3 draws on the bounce for Middlesbrough. With the way Hull have improved in recent weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if we get another close encounter here. Score prediction, going to go for a 1-1 between those two. And then to finish things off at the Stadium of Light for Sunderland up against Sheffield United. Neither side managed to win over the weekend. Sunderland losing late on against Stoke, despite having the better chances in that game, having more of the ball. They were hit by that Tom Cannon sucker punch late on. Going up against the Sheffield United side, who were held to a draw against West Brom. Now, in the reverse fixture between these two at Bramall Lane, it was an absolutely bonkers encounter. There were 2 red cards, a penalty miss for Sunderland, a late winner from Sheffield United. If we get a similar amount of drama in this game, then it should be for box office viewing. Worth pointing out that Sunderland are yet to lose at home this season. In 11 matches, they've won 7 and drawn 4. But also worth pointing out that only Burnley have taken more points in away matches this season than Sheffield United have. Feels like I'm talking myself into another draw here. I've gone for quite a few recently, but score prediction, prediction, going to go 1-1. I find it tough to separate those two. But there you guys have it. That will wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Once again, apologies if my voice is sounding a bit dodgy, but I am still a bit under the weather. This will be the last video of 2024, so I hope you did go on to enjoy. Thank you so much for your guys' support on the channel over this past year. It really does mean the absolute world to me. And yeah, roll on 2025. Let's hope we get a cracking round of championship fixtures on New Year's Day. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.